Hi guys, welcome back to this TechNet video. Today we're going to be going over how to make a showreel quick and easy. Shouldn't be a long one. Right, first things first, I'm not even going to load Premiere Pro. What I'd like everybody to do is just go through their Google Drive or their computer and compile all the clips that you're really proud of. Doesn't even have to be full finished edits, just even if it's a couple of random shots that you're really happy with, pop it into a folder a bit like this one called Showreel Resources. Give you a bit of context. I got a trailer from a documentary I worked on, a random just edit that I did from going just for a walk with some friends. This was way before lockdown, it's about a year and a half ago. I went for a dog walk and shot a dog collar for a friend who got sponsored by the company who did them. Did it all again completely free, just went out and got some cool shots with a dog. Another documentary that I did with some women's American football team, and 2 of my uni films. One of the things I want to get across nice and early is if you don't have much footage, say for example you've only done 1 film in coursework, there's nothing wrong with going out with your phone and getting some cool footage of yourself making coffee, or you going for a nice dog walk and get some nice aesthetically pleasing shots. At the end of the day, when you send out your showreels to show you are competent enough to compose an image correctly, white balance correctly, set up the shot nicely, create some depth of field, and make it look aesthetically pleasing. Okay, so that's the first thing I'd like you to do. The second thing, if I minimize this, I'd very much encourage that you use royalty-free music. Okay, the reason we want to use royalty-free music is because if we do distribute it to the internet, a lot of websites won't allow you to use copyrighted music because it's owned by somebody else. Okay, so using the latest Ed Sheeran song may sound incredible, but it's going to limit where you're allowed to exhibit your showreel. So we'd very much recommend, though a lot of the content sadly on Audio Library isn't up to scratch, there is a good 20-25% of Audio Library that is really, really good. So I'd very much recommend going onto playlists, and then in playlists you've got different moods, genres, etc. And this is a really important part of the showreel making process, probably the most important part. You'll spend more time on your music than you will actually editing. Okay, there is nothing wrong with some inspirational music, some rap music if you really want it, some electronic dance music. Me personally, I like cinematic kind of theatrical music. I think that really exaggerates and it makes my footage exciting, but that's my preference and it is no way a rule. Okay, so if you find a song that you connect with, that you feel sells yourself as well, because you've got to remember that music is representing your footage and therefore representing you. So you want to make sure that music very much tells the story of yourself as a content creator or the company that you're working for as much as the footage does. Okay, so that's something to consider. Okay, so find a bit of music that you like, that's royalty free of course, and download it, and then I'll meet you on Premiere Pro with the footage already imported. One of the piece of music I've found is just called Dust to Dawn by a guy called Josh Leek. It's royalty free, so it's all good. I dragged that into my editing software and it looks a little bit like this, which is a long piece of quite calm footage, but as we can see there is I'm hoping I can make in and out points. The in and out points here. This is kind of like a climactic part of the song. We have calm parts of the song at the beginning, here and here. And the whole thing itself, if I just clear my in and out points, is 4 minutes and 28 seconds, which we don't want. And one of the things I can encourage with finding music is if there's segments of a song that you're like, this bit kind of works, you don't have to just have the opening 30 seconds, etc. You can mix and match a bit of your track. A good recommendation, which I'll put up on the screen in big letters, is your showreel should be between 30 seconds and a minute and a half. Do not make it any longer than a minute and a half, because people they're not interested. And there's going to be too much stuff in there. So I like to put it at I like to have the cap of 45 seconds to a minute 15. That's a good showreel size. And be subjective. Okay. So one of the things I'd like to say, so if I just play a little bit of my music now, I'll just start it from the beginning. And mine's quite cinematic. So if I just play it, I have a lot of slow-mo footage, and I feel like my cinematic stuff allows me to cut quite elegantly between the footage, and it really makes it, as I like to use, exaggerated. Okay, so this is how the beginning is. I'll cut to the middle now, where it's a bit more upbeat in terms of, I'll let it get to it. A piano starts to come in. Okay, but as you're starting to notice, the theme across the whole song is exactly the same. So if I now skip to a slightly more climactic part, okay, so that's a bit, you're starting to speed up a little bit more, and then obviously I get to the biggest climactic part of the song, which is here. Okay, so you're starting to notice the different types of tempo within the same song. Okay, and obviously, as I've said, if I use the full song, it's going to be 4 minutes, 28 seconds. Way too long for a show reel. But there's going to be different tempoed clips or different emotional different types of clips within your show reel that you want to use. You want to start slow and end with your fast-paced stuff. So for example, I've got some really nice aesthetically pleasing shots of the woods and people walking through the woods, and it's very slow and very calm. But then I've also got a women's American football segment where it's really fast-paced and really quick. Okay, and obviously I need to incorporate both of those non-contextual images into the same show reel. And the way that you do that is, again, going back to the music and just trying to find segments that that work. Okay, and the best way that I can do this, James, I encourage you to step in if I'm saying this wrong, being the music guy that yourself.
All right.
But
I'll sit back and wait.
Okay, so the way I've done it here is I'll show you my end product, which looks like this. Okay, so what I've done is I've found 4 different sections of the song, including the last note. Okay, so the last note is the way the song ends, and that's usually a good part to put your name and a way to contact you. Okay, and I've found, is it a set of notes? Is it a riff? Am I right in saying, James?
It's I think it's more, I don't know the correct musical term, but it's more like a progression.
Yeah. So when the beats start to repeat, that is when I take that section. So for example, what I've done in this bit here, this bit is from this section here. So if I play this,
all right, I'm gonna judge you now.
Okay. So that is actually my start. I've started there because I think the beginning of the actual track is too slow. Okay, and you may think, Steve, get to the point. I want to cut stuff to music. That I cannot stress this enough. You'll spend 75% of your time on the music, 25% of the time on the visuals. Because if the music works, it will drive the visuals. Okay, right. So
100%.
What I've done here is I've picked this part because it's calm. I can fade it in. Okay, so this is where mine starts. Okay, I'll let it start to play a little bit. Okay, and then as you notice, it's going to now start to play again. See? What I actually ended up doing is, instead of it playing again, I actually cut about here. Okay, and what I then decided to do is actually, when the last kind of note, I'm going to call it a riff, I know it's probably wrong, I'm really sorry, music guys, but once it gets to the end of that kind of segment of beats, which it does, oh, my apologies, which it does about here, it then transitions into the the next like phase of the song, like so. So what I did, I'm actually going to turn off the, I think it's constant power, and this is what it sounded like. Okay, so it starts. And you're thinking, oh, it doesn't really sound all that good. However, if I right click and put apply default transition, it puts constant power on there. Okay, if I now play that again, because the beats are through the same amount of numbered beats in a segment, it actually works really well. So have a listen now. And it kind of almost transitions to that next kind of phase of the song, which now transitions into this. And it starts to speed up a bit more. It starts to get a bit more power to it, which is where I start to speed up my edits. Again, just took this first bit here until we got to the spike. And then what I ended up doing is skipping all the way to here, ready for the larger climactic bit. And this is the effect that you've got from there. So, and I've done that in 45 seconds, rather than it be there to here, which is, let's check, 1:47. So we've managed to make 45 seconds. We've managed to trim a minute off it, and it seemed okay. This bit isn't perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect at all. but it slows down a second and it doesn't like judder. It seems to blend into it quite nicely. Okay.
The second mix is better than the first, but that's just me.
But what you want to do then is, the way I've found stuff like that is, if it slows down a second before it kind of hits its big mark, that's where you can kind of, establish your key shots and how aesthetically pleasing they are, and then you can start to build it up. So what I like to do is I start to kind of I always pick my first and my last shot. They're already kind of preset in my head, because your first shot is obviously what is the first thing the client, the person, whoever's watching your showreel is going to judge. Okay. So you want it to bang, let's be honest. You want it to be a wow shot. And the same with your last shot. It's going to be the last thing they remember from your showreel. So again, you want it to bang. Everything in the middle, you just want to show you are diverse. So again, I've got some random shots here. Excuse the music. I had an oriental phase. Yeah, so it works quite well. Just random non-context stuff. I think that music's amazing. But I also have a trailer for some breakdancing in here, which is a lot more fast-paced. Okay, which is quite diverse. It's a documentary. Again, loads of different things, and then 2 full-length short films that are very, very calm in some areas, which I can just take aesthetically pleasing shots for, just show some diversity, if you're with me on that. Okay, so just to show you how the last kind of bit of audio breaks down, if I just hit play to show you how it transitions from the fast-paced music into the end. And then with that last note of the piano, it signifies an end to your showreel. And this last like 10 seconds is where you can put your text. It's where you can put your, TechNet YouTube, subscribe here, or whatever you wanted to, your name and some way to contact you. Most of the time people tend to put their website, which obviously makes a lot of sense. So the most important part of any showreel, in my opinion, is now done. Okay, the music. It's set my tone. It's quite cinematic, in my opinion. That's my preference. Okay, as I've said before, pick the style of music that you want to represent you as a brand, as an individual, as you want the music to. Okay, so one of my favorite shots actually is the last shot of this film. I think the shot's really, really nice. I got it during golden hour near Gloucestershire during a short film I did in like 2015. It's a really, really nice shot. I want that to be my last shot of my film. Because it's quite a nice moment, and it cuts to black, which I quite like. So what I'll always recommend you do as well, you don't need to bring in the audio in unless you want that, but we'll get to that later. So I always use this icon here, which is the drag video only, and I'll actually work backwards. I like to work backwards in some cases. So that clip is actually a little bit too long, and I'll marry it up with the sound. So excuse me as I cut this up. But I want that cut to be on that bit of that note of piano. So we're a bit short there, so let me just drag that across. Let's make this a bit bigger, but we want to find that spike. So that kind of works. So the last kind of hit of that last beat on the piano is the last kind of shot of the film, which is something I like. So yeah, so it's a nice powerful shot. It's something to remember you by. The composition is quite nice, and it's shot during golden hour, which is fantastic. So that works, and I've had that as my last shot for my last 2 showreels because I really, really like it. So now I need to find something a bit different that kind of opens up the film. I could, if you really wanted to, use the same shot, use the same film to kind of bookend it. I'm quite proud of this film. I was the director of photography on this film, and I think there's a really nice shot in here where the camera starts on a black wall and reveals her in a bathroom looking in a mirror. So let's find that shot. Again, obviously, with you knowing your own footage, you're going to know where some shots that you're really proud of are. So the shot is actually just here. So it's black, and there's a tracking shot that reveals the character, which is really, really nice. And I believe the next shot as well is also warranted, as it's an over-the-shoulder shot, which looks really nice and is very well lit. So I can pinch both of those. Again, you want only grab the audio, only grab the video, excuse me, and that can actually go at the start. So with this showreel, I'm bookending my showreel with 2 of the same film, which is fine, and then everything on the in between can be cuts from all my different stuff. Okay, so let's go along with this. So what I might do is I might actually fade in the music as it comes across. So I'll grab my pen tool, note here, and a note here. I'm just going to drag that down slightly so it fades in with the camera. There we go. That actually works quite nicely. now what I really want, which I've noticed, is I want that second piano note to be my cut. Okay, so what we want to now do going forward is, you don't have to do it on every kind of beat. So you don't have to go, if a beat is going 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't want to cut on every single one. You want to find the different moments and the different instruments that change the tempo slightly. So at the moment, if I just play it, that cut doesn't work, and your mind wants you to cut on that next piano note. Okay, so the only thing I can do if I really want to is, I know there's a bit of a gap here, and the tempo here is quite nice. So I could, I could bookend this bit, grab my selector, I could bookend this bit and make that shorter. But at the moment, she's standing still. So what I could do is I could take this cut here, just bring that back, C to cut, or it's this razor tool here. I'm going to take this cut, and I'm going to drag it. Oh, up one. Oh, I have lag. Drag it up, drag it to my note, like so, and I'm going to slot it in there, and then let's watch how that works. There we are, and you see how it starts to work, and the music's driving my showreel, okay? We've got another note here. I'm like, okay, I like this other piano note, and to be fair, I could probably edit this whole thing without even playing it, because let the spikes be indications. So the spikes in music could be different instruments. I don't know what those instruments are, but I know that these little marks here, 1, 2, 3, could all be different potential cutting points for me. So without even playing it, let's grab another clip. It could be anything random. All of this footage is completely non-contextual, so that means it doesn't have any meaning. We have no idea who this person is and why she is looking into a mirror, but the shot itself is constructed in a nice way. The lighting is quite nice. It shows a nice little moonlight, and the first kind of tracking shot in shows quite a professional, start to the showreel. And as James said, there's no meaning to it, so we can cut it up however we wanted to. I could, if I really wanted to, just to show you, I could go speed and duration. I could reverse the speed, and we could leave her alone. That could be the last shot of the film. I need to render it. But that could be the last one. We don't know that, and it doesn't make any difference. Obviously, I'll undo that for now. But I'm just kind of giving you the example. You can make your footage do whatever you want, which is, again, something to consider. So moving on. This little gap here, what would you say is maybe 5 seconds? Let's grab this lovely shot I've got here where we go out of focus, into focus. So let's grab this bit and let's drag this in, okay? So it doesn't actually meet the full note, that's fine. Let's drag it across and just see what happens. So there we go. That actually worked really nicely. There are black bars.
It gives it a totally different meaning from the original music, which I love.
So what I might want to do is to get rid of the black bars, go effect controls, and just scale it up ever so slightly. Oh, I'd probably say it's 1:15. Just so I don't have any random black bars. You want to make sure that continuity is nice. So now that's a different context shot. Again, doesn't make a difference what it means. It's just aesthetically pleasing, and it's nice and calm and in some sort of slow motion. The reason being is because I know earlier in this, I've got a really cool shot where I follow the dog up what you call a pallet of wood logs, which is more fast-paced, which I can put later in it. Okay, let's grab something else. Let's go to this kind of R&R, and let's grab a person to show we can shoot with people. Okay, let's grab this, my lovely brother. Okay, we don't want that. We just want this bit. And we'll drag this part in like so, and we'll see how this works. So this might actually work because there's a slight change. I think there's a violin in the background. Again, terrible with music, so I could be wrong. But as I play it and it cuts, it actually works quite well because this spike here is a change in note. See? And it actually still works. It's not on the actual official beat, which could then mean I could find something else with him in it. Let's grab this. Which looks quite cool, and let's drag that in, okay? Again, completely random, see how it works. Let's just drag that to the end of that spike to see how that looks, okay? So it's all trial and error with this. Let's play again. Okay, again, that kind of works. It's not too bad at all. So again, I'm now looking at my footage. I've got, you know, characters at the moment. I've got, you know, 1, 2 with the dog, 3, and then, you know, 3.5 if you count the same character. So I want to show that I can, you know, shoot some still footage, some, you know, non-breathing people. So hit play. So what I might actually end up doing is on that change, I might use it as a driving narrative. Hit stop there. I know there's another clip there where it changes slightly, but it's of the same kind of context. So there's already a transition there waiting for me. So let's drag that in, and I'm hoping it will actually end up at the same point. So again, hit play. Okay, what I actually probably should do is just drag it on by, because it's the same clip. That might actually work. See, the tone changed and so did the shot. So I've actually been able to make that what is a, you know, slightly suspect change in the track to work with my showreel, like so. Okay, and again, we're hitting that note quite nicely. What I might do is I might zoom in and just make sure it's in line with that spike, so it's got a bit more of a, there you go. So it actually hits the note nicely, okay? And now I kind of have the freedom to do whatever I want. And the next clip can be anything, because I kind of fade into a kind of, almost like a white abyss. What else have we got to play with? Let's go and have a look at what's in the charlatan. That's a very long part, but it kind of shows a nice bit of composition. So let's drag that part in there, and I'll probably cut it before our lovely actor Mark runs out of the door. Okay, obviously that we have the bars, which I will probably, I'm leaving at the moment. Reason being is I might add them for the whole showreel to give a bit more of a widescreen look, but we're not really too sure yet. So at the moment I'm just going to leave that, which is why there's a significant difference. But we're just going to hit play. There you go, and again we hit that note quite nicely. And then, yeah, literally from then onwards, as we've quite like nicely noticed, we can fill in these clips, okay? So I guess I'm going to do that thing where I kind of click my fingers. Okay, so everything is now in the timeline. We grabbed some cool shots, put them in, and made it feel all right. Obviously, as you get closer to the end and you want to squeeze stuff into your final shot, you may need to do some kind of tweaking and some decisive shot picking. The only bit that I don't like here is this little segment here. Is when it goes up to white and then reveals here. I have made the decision, I am going to put the black bars across the whole thing, only because if I stretch that image out, it's not going to look great, and gives it a bit more of a cinematic feel, which goes with my music. But again, that's a personal preference. Not everybody likes black bars. But I don't like the way it's white and goes into a very contrasted image. So what I'm going to try and do instead is I'm just going to tweak my effects. I'm going to search something called a dip to white, and I'm going to see how that looks between these two clips. Okay, so it just softens it a little bit. Once that's rendered, that'll be nice and smooth. And obviously with the black bars over the top, you wouldn't have that issue. Cool, that works really nicely, and obviously there's black bars here to go with. So, final touches if you wanted to. For me, I'm not going to do it, but if there were some moments throughout that you thought were important in terms of dialogue or a specific camera movement that had a sound effect with it, do feel free to put them in. I'm very much a believer of just no sound, additional sound like whooshes or anything with it. So's James. That's something that you've very much said.
Oh Lord, no! Don't put random whooshes and swooshes in, because it'll make it look like some really cheap YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, whoosh! Yeah. Look at this clip. Whoosh! Yeah, it's just gonna look lame. Don't do it. But also, don't add a voiceover to your own showreel. Go, this clip's great, because that'll look really weird.
A good kind of comparison to use is like if you've got a nice calm moment and there's a really nice bit of acting, you could obviously use that bit of sound across it. If you wanted to, you could fade in and fade out. That could also work as well. So again, something to consider. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the black bars. I'm going to show everyone how to do that if you want to do it. Again, I can't stress this enough, it's not compulsory. Have that little clip at the end. Didn't end up using it, but that's fine. I'm just going to get rid of that. Goodbye. Okay, so what we're going to do is, again, you can do black bars however you want. I have my own personal preference. I like to right click, new item, and grab an adjustment layer. An adjustment layer, for those who don't know, is a layer of nothingness, okay? And what I will do is I'll drag it onto video 3, extend it for the whole of the sequence, and then what I can then do, go to my effects, grab something called crop, drag crop onto the adjustment layer, and it will crop anything below the adjustment layer. Okay, so if I go to my effect controls, I now have crop. I like to crop the top 10% like so, and actually let's undo that a second. Let's go to something that isn't got black bars on it. So let's go to the Wolf and Ice. Let's go to this one. So again, I have the adjustment layer selected, go to top, crop that by 10%, and the bottom I'll crop by 10% like so. So that gives the whole sequence black bars. So the last thing I'd do here is, because we've got the black bars on the top and the bottom, we have a slight bit of leeway. So all I'm going to do here is, because I don't want the top of her head cut off, is I'm going to grab the the vertical axes and just drag it down a bit like so, because obviously we have that 10% leeway just to make sure our shot fits in the frame correctly. Same as here, as he's dancing it starts to cut off slightly, so I'm just going to bring it down so his head's not cut off. Composition is very important, and we don't want that to be a drawback from adding some cheeky little black bars that in theory don't really help at all, just make it a bit more arty. Okay, obviously you'll feel free to grade them if you want to, add some sound effects, add some cool additions if you want to, get a bit creative with the effects. Just know that too many effects will come across cheesy, as James has said, and it's just unnecessary. Literally a timeline as simple as this, again, even without the adjustment layer, you could get rid of that. A timeline like that would be as straightforward as possible. The only last touch I'd do is I would signature it off at the end like so. So there's a little kind of piano note just there. Grab the type tool, click like so, and I'll just type Showreel tutorial by Steve. Okay, really straightforward. And then from there, obviously I can click on it and I can change it all how I want in the effects panel here. So I want that to be central, etc. Let's drag that into the middle, nothing special, and that'll do perfectly. You can use a legacy title. Personally, I find it actually a little better, but I'm just dropping in clips, dropping in some text just so you can see how it looks. So I want that to appear on the note, but I want it to fade out, so I'll right click, apply default transition. It applies across dissolve. When there's nothing to dissolve into, just dissolves to nothing, something to consider. So the last little clips looks like this. So obviously it's not centered, which is fine. I will slowly center it, but it does the job. You're going to have nicer text than mine, but it's just to kind of get the point across of what it is, where to find me, etc. So just to kind of show that's where text would go if you want to put it there. So shall we have a look at the finished showreel? So I think actually that worked out quite well. I think it ticked all the boxes. It showed a bit of diversity. There was quite a nice soundtrack in there, and it wasn't too overcomplicated. As I said, this is a very basic showreel, and it does do the job. You don't want to overcomplicate it, and just getting your point across to the person you're showing it to, whether that be a client or just friends and family or something to look back on yourself. It's a nice, simple way to do it. I do appreciate this video has been slightly longer than usual, but showing the whole process is always a good way to kind of really see the full kind of spectrum of how a showreel is created. To be honest, it's one of the most fun things to do, in my opinion, as a content creator, looking back at all the great things you've done that year or that quarter, and putting it together to music. It's really, really good fun. It makes you really proud of some of the stuff you've done. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Any questions or any showreels, send them an email. Send us an email, technet@farmer.ac.uk. We'd love to see them. And yeah, that's all from me. I've been Steve, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.